Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us for this super exciting session. I can see people running. I'm going to talk quite slowly. So today we have the absolute joy of introducing you to Redgate's newest product, which we are launching right here today at Summit. And you will get to see that in action shortly. Firstly, though, let me introduce myself, who I'm going to be joined by today, and talk a bit about how we got here, why, and what it means for you all. So, hello, I'm Saskia. Here is a photo, in case you weren't sure. And for the last year at Redgate, my role has basically been to immerse myself in the wonderful and somewhat challenging world of test data management. So today, we have the pleasure of being joined by this crew here. So we've got Chris Hawkins, one of our fantastic solution engineers, smoothest voice in the biz. Grant Fritchey, who I'm sure you all know and love as much as I do, despite the scary DBA nickname. And James Phillips, one of our wonderful customers and ambassadors and Chief Information Officer at Reb.io. But first, I would like to start by taking us back in time. So the year is 2000. Britney Spears is on the radio. Seattle still has an NBA team. RIP the Supersonics. And the Redgate website looked a little something like this. I'm sure some of you recognize this. And for those who don't, can we just take a second to appreciate that this is what websites looked like back then? We have come a long way. So in 2000, we launched SQL Compare. And with it, Redgate kind of started to change the way that we interacted with the database as part of the DevOps process. So before the very aptly named SQL Compare, the process of comparing schemas, it was manual, time-consuming, and error-prone. And SQL Compare simplified and automated that. Now, since its launch, with the collaboration of you all in this room and your peers, the community, and our customers, SQL Compare is now the gold standard. So over 70% of Fortune 500 companies are using it, and we've got many happy customers, just like Bill Geek here. But as DevOps and database DevOps evolved, we've kind of built on the foundations of products like SQL Compare, like SQL Source Control, and to address the challenges that have come with that evolution. And we can proudly say that within the 24 years, we've helped thousands of organizations simplify source control, facilitate continuous integration, and enable automated deployments. But now we are entering a new phase of development. And for those of you here last year, we spoke about this at the keynote right here, where we launched our latest database cloning technology. So in that keynote, we kind of demoed bringing up an entire database server with its data in 30 seconds as part of a CI pipeline. And I hope you can all agree, it was pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But that was last year, and the industry moves pretty quickly. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce the next iteration, Redgate Test Data Manager. Thank you. So now, alongside Flyway and SQL Monitor, the addition of Redgate Test Data Manager signals a step change in our ability to offer a truly end-to-end database DevOps solution. From the ability to version control and automate deployments of Flyway, report on the success of those deployments with Monitor, and now we're enabling you to develop and test on data you can trust, to shift left, fail faster, so you can catch data-related issues as quickly and early into the release cycle as possible. And as well as making your day-to-day roles easier, your organizations will release value to customers faster with more frequent, higher quality deployments, as well as reducing costs and those compliance risks. So where does test data management come into this? Well, a lot of your failed deployments and release pains kind of down to test data management shaped pains. So perhaps outdated or unrepresentative data in your lower environments. And by unrepresentative, we mean that data just doesn't look or act like production. Perhaps that's what you're using in those lower environments. And so it's no surprise that when update hits prod, something goes wrong. And in fact, 15% of all software defects are data related. And considering that the average cost per minute of software downtime is $9,000, it's not just costing you your reputation and customer satisfaction. Or perhaps the demands of frequent deployments while your dev and test processes are inefficient is leading those deployments to fail. So maybe the data you need to test against is just too big. Maybe you have to wait days, weeks to get that data. And then when you do, you have to share that environment. And you don't want to step on your colleagues' toes. You don't want to break that environment, which is kind of what you need to do, right? That's the point. And with testing teams spending 30 to 50% of their time setting up these environments rather than doing what they do best, testing, it's no surprise that things get missed or overlooked. Finally, maybe you just can't use that data because it's full of sensitive customer information. Or you can, but you don't feel great about it, and you really don't want that responsibility. And as Tushita mentioned in our keynote this morning, over 60% of companies are still using original data to test their applications. And not only is that a huge, unwieldy data set, it puts customer information at risk and that responsibility on your shoulders. So I think we can all agree it's really hard, right? These are all super challenging things to come up against every day. They're also really hard to solve as well. And the data tells us that most people aren't nailing test data management. And I'd really like to welcome James and Grant to the stage to chat about how Rev.io relates to these challenges.
Hey, James, how's it going?
Not too bad. I'm already on.
Yeah, you're on. Hey, I got it in the right hand. Cool. How's PASS been for you so far?
I can't complain one single bit.
Okay.
This is year, I believe, 16 for me.
Oh, excellent. I'm on 18. That's great.
Oh, yeah, you always got to beat me, don't you?
So, Rev.io, what do you think? Does the challenges that she's related resonate with Rev.io and some of the stuff you've been working on?
That's an understatement a little bit there. So, I'm sure some people saw the keynote this morning and probably think I'm going to start heading down the PII route and things along those lines. But actually, I'm going to shift a little bit from that and talk about something a little bit different. And we have a lot of different challenges. So first, a little bit, let me set the stage about Rev.io a little bit. So we are a SaaS-based platform. And so we have a single platform that ends up hosting multiple different clients on the same platform. In essence, what that means is one code base and hundreds of production databases that sit behind it for every single client. Yeah. We've also been around for 20 years. So that means we've got customers.
Oh, that means you don't have much data.
No, just a little bit. And customers that have been on our platform, for some of them, for the entire 20-year period as well. And you can imagine we may have done a few updates over the last 20 years as well and changed some things.
No one ever updates code or changes databases.
No,
that's a lie.
We say static, and we want to be MySpace, right?
MySpace.
So, with that set stage a little bit, we've come across problems over the years, of course, right? And about a year ago or so, we had a really big kind of issue come up. So we did a release.
No, wait. I'm supposed to ask you about war stories.
Oh, you want a war? Okay.
Tell me a war story.
You have to prompt it first?
No, but
Okay.
I want a war story.
I want
war
story time. All right. So about a year ago or so, we had to go through and we were working on a release, and we release once a month, like clockwork, right?
Sure. No, that's great.
And we do QA. We're responsible. We try to do unit testing and everything else that goes with it. But you can imagine, in our billing platform alone, with over 200 clients on it, and some that have been around for 20 years, it's a little hard to test every possible scenario that is out there.
No.
And what a big surprise. Our clients sometimes don't use the system how it was intended to be used either.
Oh, come on. That never happens either.
Never. So about a year ago, a release goes out the door, and everything's looking good. And we have this little release party that we do when release goods go out. We monitor things, and things are looking good. and we're feeling good about ourselves. And all of a sudden, a ticket comes in through the support desk. And it comes from our largest client, who pays us, let's just call it roughly about $100,000 a month to use our platform.
Oh, okay.
So they pay a few dollars.
Sure,
to
sure,
us.
yeah. It's a shekel
And
or three.
it is, we can't log in.
Oh, no.
So they're down.
No.
Complete, I mean, dead. In the water.
Oh, right.
Down.
It's just off.
Can't do a thing. And so we don't
Did you
look
try
into it.
turning it off and turning it back on again?
We hit the reboot. Yes, we did. We followed Help Desk 101.
Okay.
What's number one? Reboot. That doesn't solve the problem. Okay, that's not it, right? Start diving in, starting to look at it. We got engineering teams. We've got infrastructure teams. We've got our cloud data team. You name it, just about everybody's on this for one client.
Well, yeah, and
We only have one client down.
Well,
in
the
all of
managers
this.
are all standing inside the cube with the poor people trying to troubleshoot it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And now, in the meantime, one of the downfalls of being an executive, their executives are calling me. And they're emailing me. When are we going to be back up? When are we going to be back up? We don't even know what's going wrong at this point, but when are we going to be back up? In a nutshell, what ended up happening was there was a data scenario that occurred that was unique for them and only them that was blocking their single sign-on working and getting into our platform.
Oh, no. Okay. Wow.
And so we know the root cause.
Sure.
We don't know how to fix it. So what starts? What do we have to start doing here?
Well,
right
first
now?
you've got to get a copy of production.
You're just taking the words right out of my mouth right now and just.
No, I've been down this road a couple of times.
So yes, we got to get a copy of production now. Now, being the largest client, what a surprise. They have a large database.
What, 10 gigs probably?
10, we'll go with that. 10 gigs or 2 terabytes. What's
Oh, yeah,
what's
okay, that's slightly.
what's a few terabytes amongst
yeah,
friends,
yeah, that
right?
T word's bigger, yeah.
So now we have to get that database refreshed into a lower environment because we want to test, not in production, and make sure this actually works.
Right. Don't
All right,
run scripts first time in production. We all know that, yeah.
Well, none of us do that, ever.
Ever.
So get a copy of production and get it all set up. And on top of that, this is a billing system. It's not quite as simple as just restore a database. Restore a database and clean a whole lot of data up. Because you might be surprised, clients don't want us to process credit card systems in a QA environment.
Not my credit card.
They don't want
I
to
don't
take
care about any
payments from people.
I don't care about
They
yours.
don't want email. They don't want emails going out to customers saying, here's another bill for you. So we got to do a lot of scrubbing of our data afterwards.
Right, yeah, okay, makes sense.
So we're about 2 hours or so into this incident at this point in time. And now we at least have a database.
Right.
Engineering thinks they fixed it. During the deployment. Big surprise, deployment alters data.
Sure, of course it does.
So we go to test it. It doesn't work.
Oh, no.
What does that
What's
mean?
that?
We got to start all over again. Another copy of the database, another refresh of the database.
Oh, yeah, you got to clean the data again because.
Clean the data all over again, get it back to a reset point, everything else. And so now we are multiple hours into this incident, right?
Sure.
And we're getting more emails, more phone calls, more screaming clients. In the end of what something could have been completely avoided if we had that capability of creating a test suite from all of our different customers, with all of their different scenarios in an easy and space management way. As a big surprise to most of you, our lower environments don't necessarily have the same horsepower and have the same storage space to them.
RevIO
that
doesn't
our
actually
production does.
own pure storage, is that?
So we run in this thing called Azure.
Oh, okay.
And using this thing called Managed Instance. And if you haven't used it before, Managed Instance is really, really expensive, especially this thing called Business Critical tier. We're not going to be running that in all of our environments. Big surprise, right? So
I'm not shocked.
There's this challenge of we don't copy everything down and we don't do everything because I don't have the footprint available to take the multiple terabyte environment, hundreds of terabyte environment that's in production and replicate it down in another lower environment.
Of course not. I mean, that makes sense.
We roll the dice a little bit, right?
Sure,
We say we do a few customers, we hope that's going to work. And in this case, it didn't. It didn't solve this. In the end, we finally got the new release out there. It took about 8 hours in total to solve the entire thing, get everything out there. And so we're good now, right? Customers
sure.
happy, we're back up. What's the next phone call that comes in? Hey, we want to...
No, they're thanking you. That's the next phone call.
Well, you ever heard the sandwich technique?
No.
Of course they thank you first. So you say something nice, then you lead with the not so nice thing,
Oh.
and then you close with something nice afterwards. So there's a big thank you. But then what's the next thing that comes up? We would like a $25,000 credit off of our bill.
But your bill's only 100,000. Oh, well, only.
Only. So we like to keep
That's
them
a lot.
happy. We give them a $25,000 credit.
Wow.
So this incident and this issue did not also cost us this downtime reputational, because especially in the industry we focus on, which in our billing platform is the telecommunications industry,
Right.
it's a very small knit community, kind of like our SQL community.
My sister works for
People talk to each other.
Yeah, they do.
So there's the reputational aspect of this too. Our customer doesn't trust our releases anymore, and we just paid them $25,000 for it.
Wow. Okay, well, I asked for a war story and I got one. That's something else. I mean, what could you have done? It's like...
So if there was this tool available, maybe, where we could have taken the data and maybe even created a smaller version of the database or something, so that we don't need this huge landscape available to us, that we could bring down and run our full test suites on,
Sure.
we would have caught this.
Right.
We had something in our
Well, I
test
mean,
scripts.
you've intentionally got a QA environment for a reason.
Exactly. And we even had a test script actually test this functionality. We just didn't for that client.
Oh, man. Okay. So, RevIO thinks that this is a realistic set of scenarios.
I only give you one war story. If we had a good few hours up here, we could just keep on going.
Well, I could also add some of mine in there too. Yeah, no kidding. Well, okay, thanks, James. I really appreciate it. That's a pretty good
Awesome.
one. That
Thanks,
was a
Grant.
good war story. I really appreciate that. Now, I've really got a question for the rest of you now. Does this resonate for you in the same way? I mean, are you able to see the same kinds of things? I mean, I see a couple of nodding heads. So, I got a question. So, 45 minutes just to restore the database.
Wait.
Chris, I'm doing a
One second.
thing, man.
No.
No, you got to
Carry on.
stop.
Carry on.
Okay, all right, whatever. Kids. So who here, 45 minutes is a good restore time on your databases? That would be a fantastic restore time. Okay. So who 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours? 16. I have 2. It's horrible. And then refreshing the data, how long does that take? 2, 3 hours? Oh, you can't laugh at me. You can laugh at me. Oh my God, wow, okay. So all of that adds time, right? I mean, what's going on, Chris?
Just wait for it.
What am I waiting
Sorry,
for?
please.
Okay. Well, so all of that adds time. It's realistic for you guys, right? I mean, it's a normal process that you're occurring. What are you looking at me for?
Done.
Done what?
That's a data refresh.
Come on, dude.
All I need to do...
Look. Anybody can take Flyway and run a deployment script and have an empty database ready for testing, but there's no data.
No. This is a full environment with a full restored copy of one or multiple databases in production, all sanitized and subset if I preferred. Done.
No. Let's see it.
Okay? Well, all I need to do now is copy the connection string that we're given. And I'm going to use Azure Data Studios today to connect to my environment, which is a full environment of SQL Server. And, because you've asked, let's actually look at the data available. So, open up my database. Naturally, I'm going to go to my customer table to start with. And here's all my data. But it's been sanitized. I can now make sure all of my developers and testers can access this in seconds. And if anything goes wrong, 10 seconds, another one spun up. Simple as that.
You've just showed 2 tables.
Exactly.
So you've masked all the tables.
You have
Or at
access
least-
to all of the schema
Right.
and all of the data, and I can do anything I wanted to do with this environment like I could have done with a restored copy, just not waiting 6 hours or waiting 16 hours, which sounds like hell, but it is what it is.
Okay. All right. So you now have my attention.
Thank you.
I'm willing to start the
And I won't
conversation.
interrupt again.
Okay, well, yeah, appreciate that. But okay, look, here's the deal. You've now helped my dev teams.
Sure have.
And the fewer phone calls I get from dev teams, the happier I am.
Agreed.
Because they're irritants.
No comment.
But, you know, if I'm a data engineer, if I'm a DBA, if I'm the person responsible for setting this up, I'm still doing a heck of a lot of work. I've got a lot of labor to get that right. I mean, I've got to create scripts. I've got to set up, restore processes. I've got to do all this stuff and so you're not helping me at all.
Well, if you asked me a few years ago, I would have given you the answer of yes. Figuring out where your sensitive data is hard. Figuring out how to make a plan of action to mask it is hard. Making sure I can have a repeatable process for doing this from an operations standpoint is hard, or was hard. But if I load up Test Data Manager now, and I'm changing my hat from being a developer or a tester who needs an environment to I want to create my environment here. We've designed this to be as simple as possible for your operations team, and especially the case when it comes to the data side of things. Do you want to make sure all of your data is truncated and realistic fake data put in? Or, as I'm going to do, I'm going to ask it to figure out where my sensitive data is and make a plan for dealing with it so it can be desensitized in my lower environments. But there's also needs to do nothing with it. Maybe your support team needs a full copy. They have permissions to do that.
That really does happen sometimes.
It definitely does. Just don't do it in production, okay? Anyway, that's the first side of it. But secondly, and you've been asking for this for a long time.
I have been, and boy, do they get irritated.
Subsetting is something we're now releasing with this product.
Subsetting!
So whether you want to have just a small subset, I don't normally get that reaction anywhere else, large subset, or as the case may be, I need all the data. But developers and testers do not always need access to all of the data. They don't need it. But if you do, you can choose very simply what works best for you guys when spinning up and defining your actual images here.
Well, now it's going to, I mean, it does obvious things like it uses less space, but that's actually even going to add to the speed.
100%.
Oh,
and this is
cool.
crucial here.
Okay, all right.
But
cool.
Before we finish this bit off, I want to make sure that for this launch session, we outline we are supporting SQL Server, naturally, Postgres, MySQL, and Oracle from the launch. So regardless of which one you guys use or which combination you use, you can standardize this same process across all of them, but you'll be happy to know I'm going to use SQL Server. And I'm just going to ask it, I want my environment to be on 2022. So simple. And the final thing I need to give it is, naturally, a name. So this is a launch session, so I'll call this Launch Session Preview Image.
That's imaginative.
Thanks. I'll give it the backup file or backup files that I want to have my environment to be based upon. And something that we have heard from our customers based on our previous tooling is we want to know what's going to happen before it happens. I don't want to wait hours to say, that was not right. I want a preview of it telling me quickly what is about to happen in my environment if I allow it to do this image creation. So here is a connection string for a database that is available to my server. I'm going to now click Create Preview, and the preview will always take around 10 to 15 seconds. This part is quick. Obviously, if you've got 15,000 tables, it might take a little bit longer, but 1,200, sorry. But it's going to tell me what it has detected as being sensitive.
Whoa. You're telling me I get to review. I get to like look this over.
If you're that way inclined, you can very much review it.
Yeah. Because I mean, look, I love Redgate.
Thank you.
But I don't necessarily trust them all the time.
Don't really know what to go from there. I do trust them all the
Cool,
time.
that's awesome. So I actually get to review stuff. That's cool.
You can review, you can see what it's doing, and when you're happy, create image, top right-hand corner, and it's going to go ahead and take care of the hard part. So, making sure we have this beautiful SQL Server 2022 environment, full instance, It will make sure it restores the database or databases. We can run any cleansing scripts if we need to, but most importantly, run that masking process that it defined, it worked out, and that when it's done, we will lock that up, and that is our golden state of truth for our environment.
And you keep saying environment, and so what you mean when you say environment, you're talking about, if we're talking SQL Server, you're talking servers, you're talking Postgres, you're talking instances, and then the database or databases within them.
You're exactly right, because we...
In seconds.
Seconds.
Okay.
So in our previous tooling, we focused on databases and cloning a database, a single database, and putting it somewhere in your infrastructure that you already have. We are now taking it to the next level. We are spinning up a full instance of SQL Server in this case that could have one or multiple databases in it. And so when I connect to that clone from the image I just made, I have access to a full instance to do with as I please in seconds. And I can make sure I can do my job as a developer or a tester to do changes to the data, to the schema, put it into source control, use flyaway for bonus point.
Changes.
You're interrupting me now.
I am interrupting you. Changes. Sorry. Changes to the data. You can change the data too.
Anything. Treat this as a normal database that you could have just restored. This gives you access to everything. Do your jobs in the way that you want to, in the IDE that you want it to be in. We're just helping you take care of the hard, difficult, time-consuming parts. And this takes up 200 megabytes. Spin another one up, 200 megabytes. My original database could be 10 terabytes, but this clone, 200 megabytes.
All right, so you had my attention, but now you've got my interest, because this is cool. I mean, this does actually change my job, right? And this does affect. It
definitely does.
Yeah, it affects me in a real way. I mean, so now I'm getting stuff out of this besides just not having to get phone calls from the devs. All right, that's all cool, right? But clicky is not helping me with my DevOps solution, right?
Yeah.
I need to be able to automate this process as well.
Now, you're right, and we very much want people to have a UI that they can go to, feel comfortable with. Not everyone loves going into a command line and putting all the commands in.
Why?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people in the room here probably do. So what we made sure of when we designed this tooling is we've learned over the last 20 years that we need to design it from the ground up with the command lines at the forefront of what we're doing here. Because especially when you want to automate any of what I just showed, you very much can. So every step that I did in the previous UI, you can and should automate. And I'm going to show you an example of how I can do that from within Azure Data Studios, and I can run any of the commands I did in the UI from where I do my work. So I'm going to ask TDM's cloning CLI, have you got any containers currently available? And it's going to tell me, no, sir. So let's create one. Please clone CLI, create me another clone from an image that I've already got. I'm just going to insert the name of that. So my masked image. I'm going to give it a name, because otherwise it will randomize it to a random name, which you're more than welcome. But really interestingly, I could even give it a lifetime, because my developers often leave things around for a very long time. And I've told them a million times not to do that.
Clean up behind yourself.
But they can expire after a certain amount of time. And I've said 30 minutes in my case.
Well, I mean, that's almost like having a CI environment as a database.
You're right.
Ah, cool.
So, in my case, though, it spun me up that container again in 10 to 15 seconds. I think we're all getting the picture now of how quick it is. I won't bang on about it, or I'll try not to. But when you think about an automation side of things, you can ask it, please give me every nuanced detail about that beautiful clone that we've just spun up. And especially when you're in an automated Azure DevOps or any other CI/CD tooling, you might want to take these values and do something interesting with it. So, my apologies. So the key thing is going to make sure that when we have our environments spun up, and we've done so in any CI/CD tool out there, we have the ability of automating this at the time that you guys need it. So crucially, in my case, the way I've utilized this quite heavily is when we think about my automated testing side of things, I want to spin up an environment and run my tests, like in James's story earlier, so that we can make sure that before anything goes to production, we've tested it with a full copy of that database. It's gone through all of its unit tests. In 10 seconds, spins it up, and when I'm done, it can very much ensure that it can spin down after the fact.
Right, it cleans up behind itself.
Exactly. So
That's awesome.
let's run this back one more time, because I want to make sure that when it comes to the anonymize side of things and all of the crucial aspects of what the command line can do, we want to ensure that you guys can understand how this can help your business. So I'm going to kick it off again,
Right.
and we're going to create that container.
Cool.
Beautiful. Okay,
There it goes, yeah.
let's ask it, where's my container at? And we'll spin another one up now.
Okay.
And what you'll see here is we've tried to design it with very simplistic terminology, because if any of you have ever tried to use other enterprise tools for spinning things up, it can be quite a complex task to achieve this. So in our case, we use the terminology of create, delete, get information. And that means when we've spun this up now, my container will just give me my connection string.
Right. That's great.
Done.
Once you've got the connection string,
10 seconds.
that's so cool.
Okay, so as I want to make sure I have my details, and for Flyway, the JDBC string is very much there as well. But in my case, I'm just going to copy that connection string and make sure I connect to it in Azure Data Studio.
Hey, I noticed you've got JDBC there too.
100%.
Oh, cool, because that means I can plug it into Flyway.
100%. And in the keynote, if you were there, you would have saw that new integration that we built directly into Flyway for that reason. But today is not about Flyway, Grant. Today is about
come on.
Test Data Manager. So I'm going to look at my customer table now. We looked at it earlier, but what I want to make sure of is it's all great and good being able to just look at the data. I want you guys to be confident that this is going to allow you to change it, update it, and do your jobs. Not just, here's some data, great. So, to show you what this can do, let's actually make sure I edit this. So I'm going to edit some data now. And by editing the data, I want to make it really clear what I've done. So I'm going to add in Chris Hawkins, naturally.
By the way, you're making me a little ill using the GUI to do that, but
Sure.
right? Yeah.
I'll add Grant as well, but I'm also going to make sure I put all of us as part of Redgate Limited. Okay,
Cool.
done. Just so we have a couple changes here, I'm also going to add a column as well. So I'm going to make sure I add something
In the
like
GUI.
customer email. And we'll make it a varchar 60. And I'll save this off. Thank you, Azure Data Studios. But one of the things that I really wanted to point out, this was the key part of this bit, is when it comes to doing your normal development or testing, you often are doing things that you don't know what's actually going to happen. Things can get broken.
Oh, no, developers always know what they're doing.
This is the point of a sandbox. So imagine I could tell you that you can save virtual checkpoints in your clone so that at any point in time, you can revert back to a beautiful state where nothing bad had happened. And all you have to do is ask TDM's cloning capabilities, please make me a save point, a checkpoint. Done. I've now got my revision 1. So anytime I want to go back to this point with Chris Hawkins and Saskia Parks and Grant Fritchey in there.
I'm interrupting again, sorry. You're telling me you just branched the database. You branched a database.
And it's really not taking up any additional storage. We're making these virtual checkpoints so that now I can do something a bit more potentially breaking, and I can go back to this point when I'm ready, if I want to.
You branched a database. I'm kind of stuck here. We can branch databases with branching the code.
You've got to get up to the times. And what I can do here as well is, if I want to do any other part of the TDM story, I can ask it to classify my database, seconds. I can ask it to make a mapping plan of what to do with it. And as I'm doing right now, it's even telling me, I can mask your database, and I found 4 tables, including my customer table. And 15 seconds again. I'm not even...
It's not always supposed to be 15 seconds.
So, if I go back to my customer table, it's now masked all of that data. Chris Hawkins has gone. But
cleaned it all up.
the deterministic data masking has meant that everyone that used to be Redgate Limited has been masked with the same new company name. So it doesn't put us all to different companies to make that data less relevant. We've ensured that the masking is being helpful. And my customer email column did not contain any data previously, but it detected it and said, you know what, I'm going to pump it with generated fake data so my developers can at least see that.
It built the data, too. It built the data, too.
If you want fresh data, fine. If you want anonymized data that's there, fine. But I've made some changes here. I've affected my database. I don't like it. So if I want to reset this back to any save point, which I could have had many, Redgate clone, let's reset this clone for launch session back to the previous save point. Okay? Resetting, and within, I don't know, we'll see.
Roll back a branch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is
Done.
too cool.
So
That's
my
great.
container now is gone back to the point we saved. I can now try a different test. I can do whatever I like.
Hang on, let's see it. You got to show me.
Well, if I go back to my customer table now, I've got my Chris Hawkins back, which I know I edited in the UI.
That's
and
okay. It's
the email
okay.
address column
I'm forgiving
is gone
you
as
at
well.
this point.
But your credit card number is still here, so we made sure of it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No screenshots. So, you asked about CLI. Done.
Okay, that's pretty cool. All right.
But what I want to make sure of, because I know we talked about a few key areas here, is when we think about how we've evolved our view of what a test data management process should be, we've thought about things from the developer side, the tester's side, and we've thought about from the operations side. So if we want to make sure that we have a simplistic way of our users self-serving themselves their own clone, done. If we want to make sure our operations team can have their feet up with a cup of tea, done. We will figure out the hard parts of detecting that for you, creating a plan of action, and masking it as well. So you have the flexibility of any of those options to run them in the order you want, in the way you want, in the tools that you want. So the flexibility is there, and the reliability of having this automated process to make your lives easier, regardless of which side of this process that you're going to sit on.
So you're just saying simplicity, flexibility, and reliability is what you said.
Yeah?
Oh,
For me,
that's
it's fundamental.
phenomenal. This is great. I mean, this is exciting.
Thank you.
Honestly, let's hear it for Chris and TDM. Hey, Chris.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you. All right. Okay, I'm not done. James, come here. Come on.
I knew you were going to bring me back.
James, do you think if you'd had this, you might be $25,000 richer?
So I was warned ahead of time I had to keep my reactions on the PG level.
Okay.
Otherwise, there would be some explicitives I may say right now. But yes, this is freaking awesome. This would have solved a whole lot of my problems. As I'm watching this, the space management issue I talked about, those checkpoints, so now I could have just rolled back. I wouldn't have had to do a whole nother restore all over again. My brain's moving a little bit right now, and I'm starting to think through this and starting to go, why don't we already have this?
Well, you don't already have it because this is hard. It's taken a while to build out some of this stuff. So
I can imagine you may have had a developer too, right?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
You know, I crack jokes about developers, but I love them to death. I mean, I really do. And I used to be one, so I probably shouldn't pick on them as much as I do. But well, that's cool. I mean, so it's going to save you some time. It's going to save you, I mean, it's certainly going to set up the QA stuff. But I mean, what about that whole masking thing? I mean, is that
Well, yeah, for me it is important, right? So we have been expanding as a product. We've started to get into new countries.
right?
So there's that GDPR thing we got to go deal with. There
Nobody
may be
pays
some-
attention to that.
Maybe some rules there. We have to mask some data, but it's they obviously started it all, right? This is where all this kicked off years ago with GDPR.
Sure.
But if anybody's been paying attention, especially in the US as of lately, I believe we're up to 17 states now that have various different laws that are all going to be starting to be enacted. Some are enacted already, but there's quite a few that are going to be enacted now over the next 2 or 3 years as well. And I expect as we keep talking, and you bring me back up here next year, and I better say, there's now probably about 50 states at that point that all have got something.
Anybody who was in my session 2018, whenever GDPR came out, when I started teaching on it, I predicted this, that there were going to be 51 individual, plus our territories.
And that's exactly what's starting to happen. And for me, I literally have a schedule built out and Gantt little chart and everything else. It all says, well, here's this state, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And why that's important is because from a scoping standpoint, some of our customers only operate in certain states. So it gives me a little time, right?
Sure,
I don't have to worry about Colorado yet or something like that.
Or Oklahoma.
But I'm going to have to eventually at some point.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and the nice thing is you're going to be able to, with this, I mean, absolutely, it's going to pick you up. It's going to carry you a long ways. But you got that review.
Yep.
And then you can save that masking set off and decide how you want to edit it, and then rerun it as you need to.
Well, the other thing that really jumped out at me as well is that I've got some DBAs, and I may have been a DBA at one point in my life as well, and we are skeptical about automation.
No, I am not skeptical.
There's a big so having that capability to press the buttons, see the results, know what's going to happen ahead of time, and then eventually get it into our automation is also a really key part of this as well.
Yeah, like I said.
We get to give the warm and fuzzy to everybody a little bit first before we're pressing and say, yeah, just do it automatically.
Right. Well, and you guys probably already have like some of the continuous integration and some of that stuff already set up. So
we do.
So you're just going to be working on incorporating things
this
like
is going to add into it. This is going to expand upon it. This is now going to create a better test environment across the board. Our QA team, I bet, is going to be a lot happier too. We'd be surprised every once in a while you get an interesting message from them that's like, hey, this test failed. And why? Oh, look, we're missing a data component here because this client in our QA doesn't have that. But
the problem is never the database, man. I've said
never.
this for years.
But I'm starting to see the application across multiple different groups, whether it be the developers, whether it be more on the operations side, whether it be on our QA and our testing side. I won't even lie, something else that started across my mind too is, so we have this concept and we have very few clients doing it now, but we make some of our clients' data in a lower environment available for them to pre-test some releases.
Oh, right. That's a good idea.
Don't think I haven't gotten the question of them going, wait, why is that our production data?
Right, exactly, no doubt.
So having that capability of masking that up as well and just automating the entire process is a huge time save for me. Especially I look at one of my DBAs is sitting right over there too, so I'm trying not to stare them down too much here, but I like them to be working on what I would call the more important type of stuff, right?
Right,
when
query
the big
tuning.
issues come in and making sure that they aren't being distracted by these types of things that can be automated. So it's making sure that my really skilled individuals are doing the actions that are taking advantage of their skills and not clicking the buttons so they don't need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And then because you're looking at data and databases, that means you're looking at indexes, you're looking at data distribution, you're looking at statistics. All of the stuff that you're going to be getting into query tuning and all the rest of that mess, it's all there.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, well, thanks, James. That's awesome.
Thank
I
you,
really
Grant.
appreciate it. Well, you know what? I'll bet you Saskia knows some other people who have something to say about this. Okay, cool.
Thank you so much for the convenient question there, Grant. And thank you, James, Grant, and Chris as well. That demo was awesome. So, as Grant said, here is what some of our other customers are saying. So Steris, who is a healthcare company, they said, they've got full trust in the process and their downtime window for release has been cut by 50%. Surgical information systems say their defects have gone down and their quality has gone up. And around productivity and efficiency, surgical information systems say that they want to get new features into their customers' hands faster. They could do twice the amount of testing, lowering their time to market. Finally, around handling that sensitive information, KEPRO says that PII has been successfully masked, but it doesn't jeopardize the integrity or volume of the data for development and testing purposes. So I want to summarize here. Look how green all the red things are. They were red and now they're green. Like, that's only good, right? So we have taken those failed releases and replaced them with quality software updates that actually work when released. We've taken reduced efficiency, increased productivity, developers can self-serve, clone, saving a ton of time. But with those small clones as well, you're saving that costly infrastructure requirement. And finally, by automating the protection of sensitive data, it's just covered. You've got it covered. And using data virtualization and with the multi-RDBMS support, it's super easy to standardize and scale the workflows and toolings across your teams. So if you couldn't tell, we are really proud of Redgate Test Data Manager, and of course, incredibly excited to be introducing it to you here today. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the dedicated teams who have been working on it across the months. Thank you. Of course, we are not stopping there, so we're going to continue to evolve the solution. There's even more to come. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the letters. I'm saying the letters AI in regards to synthetic data generation, incredibly exciting. And we'll also be widening our cloud coverage as well. Keep an eye out. Both of those will be on their way early next year. And of course, we'll continue to strengthen our end-to-end database DevOps portfolio, across our whole portfolio, so you can get the most out of any database anywhere. So finally, if you want to know more about Redgate Test Data Manager, you want to find out how you can benefit, please come to the booth. We're all set up to go with demos, say hi, talk to us, maybe hear Chris Hawkins' voice some more, I don't know. And if you haven't played it yet, there is a really fun test data management, Kathy, like Lego digital game. I think the highest score right now is 150 and no one's got close yet, yeah? So see if you can beat that, give that a go. And for those of you attending our Test Data Management Devour Hour shortly, you will get a super in-depth look at the tool. And we have a few other sessions today and tomorrow highlighting it as well. So check those out on the schedule if you're interested. Finally, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. As I said, we are all super excited. Hope you're as excited as we are. And I'd like to welcome Grant and Chris, James, back to the stage for any questions.